Hi guys, follow me on Instagram to never ever miss any of my crazy updates. Hi guys and welcome to another vlog. I am driving this. This is the Ford Figo Automatic and it actually looks the same as the regular Figo. Of course, straight away we're going to be opening the engine bay. No, any more powerful engine does not power it. Not the 1.5. It is the 1.2. There's no engine cover as such, but there is insulation right there. In terms of the design, the car looks similar as before, but this does not have the blue variant, so you don't get those blue inserts, but instead you get chrome. Okay, the grille actually looks quite nice, sort of Aston Martinish finish. Lights are bright. That is the fog lamp. This is the headlight, which does not get any LED, no projector setup either, kind of basic and plain as such. However, coming to the side, this car is actually not that big in terms of size. However, the wheels actually look nice. These are 15 inches and I like the design of the alloy wheels for sure. 195/55 15s, not under tired for the petrol, under tired for the diesel with the massive torque. Some attention to detail in terms of having, look at this. Maybe unnecessary, but design elements definitely put. That white thing is there because this is a brand new car. However, there's a small problem. There's no request sensor, so you have to remove the key to unlock the car. At least that's what I faced. And you can see there indicator on the small Chintu outside rear view mirrors as well. The stance of the car looks actually quite nice and sporty, and in spite of the fact that this was launched in 2015, 6 years already on sale, doesn't look dated as such, but they should have updated the lights with LEDs. Kind of look plain and basic. You obviously get rear parking sensors. You get a reverse parking camera, which is actually placed here below. There is a reverse parking camera. Meanwhile, you know what, this fake treatment that's kind of weird and awkward and unnecessary. Says titanium. You have to actually put the key to unlock the boot. No electromagnetic tailgate opener, unfortunately. The lights look nice, but yeah, come on, LEDs is what is needed. That is a rear wiper which is functional right now. I've turned it on actually. Let's open the boot of the vehicle, and there you see the loading lip is actually on the higher side. The seats obviously split forward, but in one piece. No 60/40 here. And boot capacity is decent, but the shaping of the boot could have been much better. Okay, the spare wheel is not an alloy, neither is, one second, I'm really struggling right now with the reins and the umbrella and whatnot, so I'm just going to try to show you that as well. And here you see, this is the spare wheel, which is not an alloy. It's actually a smaller size tire as well. Yeah, can you see the size of the tire? It is 175/65 14. Cost cutting there. I think it won't fit, a full size tire won't fit there. Let's shut this. And actually it feels very light as such. Now, one big problem with the Figo is that the rear doors do not get any door pockets. Okay, the seats are actually comfortable. Under thigh support is average, I would say decent. Seats are scooped out, the front seat backs are scooped out, so decent amount of leg room and knee room. However, the seat is just a bit too upright, and headroom is a bit of an issue for tall passengers like me. Meanwhile, you have to press this button here in order to recline this, but you have to do it from both sides, which is not humanly possible. There's no storage space in the rear, and unfortunately there's no center armrest either. They should have given door pockets at the rear. I don't know why they did not do that. Let's shut this and let's quickly get inside. Now, this car has a lot of features. Yeah, it does miss out on certain features which you would expect in 2021, but in order to make up for the lack of rear door pockets, they've given massive door pockets at the front. Power window controls right there. That is the control for the rear view mirror adjustment. And you know what, with a button you can also close the small Chintu rear view mirrors. Here, I'm just going to shut them and show it to you. Yeah, that's how it's done. Now, the dashboard design is nice, but somehow kind of car feels small in multiple ways. Let me do one thing. Let me get inside. Okay, here we are. Just give me a minute so I can adjust the umbrella. Okay, the umbrella is gone. Doors actually shut with a proper third as such. Air conditioning gets climate control. Let's shut that. The problem is that everything seems a bit small here. Like this screen, which is a 7-inch touchscreen unit, it is actually small and Chintu. Doesn't get Apple CarPlay, does not get Android Auto connectivity, does not get even sync, which is kind of unfortunate. Let's put it into reverse. This is the reverse parking camera. Yeah, it gets guidelines, but the guidelines are obviously not adaptive. Piano black finish as well. Meanwhile, the glove box is decent size, but lot of hard plastics everywhere. The car gets 6 airbags. Yeah, that's right. Curtain airbags as well. And you get a mirror here, but no light. Here though, you do not get either, but a toll receipt holder. However, we've got FASTag, auto dimming inside rear view mirror, light placement here on the top. Buttons could have been slightly better in the way they operate. Kind of feel hard and harsh. The dashboard design gets the full black treatment for a sportier look. And the steering obviously feels nice to hold. Unfortunately though, the steering is a bit too forward and does not get adjustment for that. It gets adjustment for height, but not for reach. Meanwhile, these are the controls for the wipers. These are the controls for the indicators, because headlight controls are here. This is for the front and rear fog lamps. Nice headlight controls. It gets automatic headlights. It gets automatic wipers. This is to open the boot of the vehicle. And guess what? The instrument cluster is a bit small, but you get this sort of carbon fiber finish at the rear, behind of course, and it says transport mode, which means that I am Jason Statham for today. Okay, you get multi-information display in that, which shows you distance to empty, what is the fuel economy, and all the usual stuff which you would expect. Meanwhile, the car has done only 81 kilometers. It's a very small instrument cluster. This is obviously for the fuel meter, this is for the tachometer, this is for the speedometer. It's mostly analog with that digital display in the center, of course. This is the engine start-stop button. And this screen, like I told you, feels a bit small. Let's do one thing. Let's play an audio right away to see the audio quality. Audio quality is decent, but there's nothing in the screen as such to browse other than the fact that it also gets navigation. I have to accept this, but why is it not letting me accept it? And there is navigation loading. It's actually decent, but not the crispiest as such. Meanwhile, the front seats are very comfortable. Good amount of under-thigh support here as well. You obviously get a 12-volt charging socket, an aux port, a USB port, and storage space here. Meanwhile, there's storage space here too, 2 cup holders. There's a cup holder here, which actually the rear seat passengers can operate. TCS off button, the traction control button is placed right there. It's got ESP, it's got hill hold assist as well. So yes, Ford has loaded this car with plenty of features, although you definitely expect more now in 2021. You obviously get audio controls on the steering wheel. These are the controls actually. And the seat belts do not get the height adjust function, which is a bit disappointing. Now what is new is this gear lever. You can see there are the buttons actually to shift gears manually as well. And you get a sport mode too. This is a torque converter gearbox. But how is it to drive? Before that, let me tell you, there is no proper dead pedal. Unfortunately, there is no proper dead pedal. That should have been there for sure. Anyways, let's start driving right away. Alright, we're all set to go, which means turning off the air conditioning, getting into sport mode, handbrake down, traction control off as well. We've got the navigation on here. Let's turn on the wipers as well, rear wipers too, because it's raining so much cats, dogs and monkeys and donkeys and chimpanzees. Okay, hazard light off, left foot on the brake, revving the motor, revs till 2,500 RPM. Oh yes, we have reached 100 kilometers per hour. It took some time to reach there. Okay, the normal 1.2 liter petrol with the manual gearbox is actually faster. This is of course the same 1.2 liter petrol engine. It's a 3-cylinder unit. It is decent in terms of performance. It's very refined lower down, and it gets a bit vocal in the higher end of the rev range. But the problem is it lacks a bottom end, and that's because the peak power of 96 PS actually comes at 6,500 RPM. Meanwhile, the torque output of 190 Newton meters comes in at 4,250 RPM. The reason is that it doesn't really have grunt lower down the rev range, and that's why you really have to push the motor. Now, this torque converter gearbox does a slightly good job of actually masking that poor bottom end, because around 2,500-3,000 RPM it wakes up. It has a good mid-range, it has a nice top end as well, and performance is for the most part linear. But you know, can you hear the making some noise as such? Now what, I have manual mode. I can actually shift gears. I have downshifted to third. Actually, third is the gear which we were already in, so nothing new there. But performance is not exciting, although a torque converter gearbox is way better in terms of shifts when compared to AMT gearbox, with which this car actually competes. The Swift uses an AMT gearbox which is very lethargic, very jerky, but this one is so much more smoother, a much greater gearbox any day. However, it takes a toll on fuel efficiency because it's 2.5 km per liter less fuel efficient when compared to the manual, which returns 18.5 km per liter. This returns 16 km per liter, and the BS4 model used to return 20.4 km per liter. So Ford did not reduce the power in BS6, but they reduced the fuel economy, although torque output reduced by 1 Newton meter. So we're going to do a manual launch, and upshifts between 6,500 to 7,000 RPM. I think somewhere between 6,600 RPM. The manual of course goes till 6,800 RPM. Here's the problem: the lack of a bottom end and the fact that you can't, rev the motor and dump the clutch results in no wheel spin even in the wet with traction control off. I don't see any loss of grip at all because the motor just doesn't have the oomph to push this car hard as such. So as far as the engine goes, I say it's refined. The gearbox is nice and smooth as long as you drive it sedately, and because the torque converter unit actually improves the drivability when compared to the regular Figo, whose bottom end performance is a bit weak. This gets the job done, to be honest, but also takes a toll on fuel efficiency. The fuel tank capacity 42 liters. So should you get a torque converter gearbox? And I'll tell you, there's a bit of a history here. When the Figo was originally launched, it came with a DCT gearbox. fantastic, but maintenance is on the higher side, and fuel efficiency is also good with a DCT. So Ford was like, with the facelift, they decided to drop it because it's obviously more expensive, a DCT gearbox. In came the torque converter unit. Now that torque converter unit was a bigger engine, a 1.5 liter. Now obviously a bigger engine on a small car means no excise duty benefits as such. Plus obviously it drinks more. Now they've come up with a 1.2 liter petrol with the 6-speed torque converter gearbox for better fuel efficiency. But honestly, the older engines obviously had better performance. This one doesn't feel that exciting enough, but then I can't really blame Ford as such, because the market wants something which is more cost effective. And talking about cost effective, this will cost around 1 lakh more than the manual gearbox version. Meanwhile, the Swift Automatic actually costs around 40-50,000 more, because that's an AMT. This is a torque converter. Torque converter is more expensive. In spite of that, this is still cheaper than the Swift. Yeah, that's right. This should cost around 9.5 lakhs on road Mumbai, making it quite attractively priced for what it has to offer, because plenty of features, and the steering is obnoxiously light. The steering is super duper light. It's absolutely ridiculously light. You can twirl it with one finger, and I'm twirling it with one finger. That is the level of lightness it has to offer. But then it actually weighs up decently well. At high speeds, you can hear it makes a lot of sound. Now it's not really a joy to use this these buttons on the gear lever to shift gears, because firstly that manual mode just does not work when you're in regular drive mode. It only works in sport mode. What does sport mode do? It holds on to a gear longer, and people are having fun with the waterfall rather. Meanwhile, the thing is that it will not upshift fast. It will keep a lower gear, and all that definitely helps the cause in terms of giving it more oomph. Because of the weak bottom end performance, you want to keep it in a lower gear all the time to get going fast and hard. And that said, somehow I feel the car feels quite restricted in terms of its performance. If you're looking to buy a Figo, just get the diesel. The diesel is absolutely phenomenal, and the manual is also better than the automatic. But if you're looking for an automatic, I think this is about sedate driving, although the chassis will make you feel something else, because it really inspires you to drive hard and fast. The steering is fantastic. It weighs up beautifully well at high speeds. The turn-in this car is so good. It's phenomenal, and body roll is also very well contained. So you'll never complain about the way this car is able to perform around the corners. But the ride quality can be a bit of a hit or a miss, because for the most part the ride is good, but you hit a bad bump and then you can feel a bit inside the cabin. And the problem is, if you're driving on a bad road now, the car can get a bit bouncy and uncomfortable. But for the most part, the ride and handling balance is absolutely stunning, and obviously the braking performance is also pretty darn awesome in this car. So I don't really have much to complain about. The only thing I have to complain about is the fact that the Figo started to show its age. It's become quite old, and because Ford wasn't able to sell many units, resale value isn't great, but Ford has worked on service. So in terms of upkeep cost, this is among the best in the segment. We're going to stop here. Yeah, you can see sure-footed braking. Tires do decent job of actually gripping as well. And there we're going to go left foot on the brake, right foot on the accelerator. It's not fast revving. The motor is just not fast revving. It kind of takes its own sweet time to get going because of the bottom end weakness, which actually, if you dump the clutch, rev the motor, put it into the mid-range directly, you can actually mask it by driving it enthusiastically. But here, in normal day-to-day driving, it masks that lack of low-end punch. This engine, really very refined for a 3-cylinder unit. I will have to give Ford that for sure. Now, this one should be priced around 9.5 lakh rupees. I was telling you about that. Prices of cars have obviously gone upwards in recent times because of new emission norms and whatnot. And I honestly feel that Ford really needs to update the Figo now. For what it is worth, it's still a fantastic car, but if it wants to put the sales chart on fire, Ford really needs to think out of the box, offering something which is kind of unique, kind of different. And okay, that is the test I was going to do, because I didn't do it earlier, the windshield wiper test to see how much fluid actually comes out of there. It's plenty. It's actually plenty, and then it's obviously raining. So guys, this is actually a small vlog of the Figo because the car is kind of old now, and I think the replacement should be more exciting. They should just get the Focus, and they should get the Fiesta. The Fiesta hatchback would really kick everyone right in the nuts. Another thing is, since Hyundai has priced the i20 so aggressively, a Fiesta hatchback can be priced as rather, Hyundai did not manage to price the i20 aggressively at all. So a Fiesta hatchback at similar pricing would do wonders, but then they'll have to localize like crazy, which they've done with this car, and it's kind of lost the old Figo, the first generation Figo's charm in terms of the tank-like build quality and also the handling, and then it obviously had a hydraulic steering. So let's not go there. As far as the Swift goes, which is the main competitor, I think the Ford just feels better to drive. Much better to drive. Only thing is, the Swift kind of feels slightly modern, and obviously that's also due for the next generation anytime soon. So if you like this vlog, make sure to give the thumbs up. That's a like button. And also, क्या कहते हैं, like करो, comment करो, लिखो सब कुछ. Tell me what you guys think about Ford's current India lineup. I think the Endeavour is fantastic. The EcoSport has been too long in the tooth right now, and the Figo and Aspire twins definitely deserve to sell better, but unfortunately they did not, because people just expect so much more from Ford.
I don't want Endeavour to go.
Noreen does not want Endeavour to go, is what she's saying. Here, full throttle. Nothing, no wheel spin, none of that. Actually, obviously being a front wheel drive car, you go near the limit, it's going to understeer, and the limit is actually quite far as such, but you can actually exploit the limit in the diesel, not so much in the petrol, but that's a story for another day. Bye bye.